Hey guys, in this video we're going to create a landing page that uses the parallax scrolling effect, and we're going to do this with the help of a very lightweight JavaScript library called Relax.js. And this is what we'll be building. The design is based off of the Flixo website, and what Parallax does is it's a technique where you can have your foreground elements move at a different pace than the background, and it gives it this really cool depth effect, almost like a 3D type thing. So if we go ahead and we start to scroll down, you'll notice that the foreground elements move at a different pace, which gives it that depth perception. So basically we can set elements to have that effect and also change the speed. So these here are going quite fast while this image is really slow and just kind of stays on the screen. And then these at the bottom here, these three blocks, these are all set to different speeds, which gives it this kind of staircase effect as we scroll down. All right, so I mean, you can do some really cool stuff. Obviously, this is a pretty simple example, but you can get really intricate and have some really cool effects using Parallax. And this is the Relax.js website. It's pretty simple to use. We just initialize it with a class. We use that class, and then we can actually add specific speeds through attributes, which can be from anywhere from -10 to +10. So that's what we'll be doing. Let's go ahead and jump into VS Code. I just have an index HTML and a style CSS, which are empty, and then 3 images, BG1, which is a JPEG, BG2, which is a PNG. These just these people here, and then this play button PNG image as well. And I'll have all the code in the description inside of a code pen. Now, I am going to type out all the HTML, and then I'll do some copying and pasting with the CSS just to kind of move along a little bit here. But I do like to do things from scratch. I like you to have a project that you can code along with me. So let's go ahead and just start with the HTML. I'm going to go ahead and create a boilerplate here, and let's say Parallax landing page, and we'll go ahead and add our link to our style sheet, which is right in the root. And then I'm also going to be using Font Awesome, so let's grab that. I'm going to go to cdnjs.com and search for Font Awesome, and I'm going to use the CSS link here. So let's just copy link tag, and we'll put that right in there. We can also grab the Relax.js library CDN from here as well. So if we just search for RELLAX, X, and let's grab the minified version here, copy the script tag, and put that right in the body at the bottom. Now we will have a script tag here where we init or initialize the Relax library, but I'm going to do that after we create the initial website. So as far as the HTML, it's pretty simple. We basically just have 3 sections. Whoops. We have this section here, this one, and then the grid here, and then the footer. So this shouldn't take too long. I'm just going to go through this real quick. So first section, we'll use HTML5 section tag with a class of section top. And inside here we'll have a div with the class of content. And we also want to add the Relax class, because that's going to basically tell the library that we want this to use that effect. Now inside here we're just going to have an H1, and we're going to say community driven or community based driven website, and then underneath that we'll have an A tag with a button class that is going to go nowhere, and then just say learn more. So that's our first section. The second one, let's say section, and we'll call this section dash stream, and this is going to have an image with the class of play. This is the big play button image, which is also going to have that relax effect. And let's link to the image, so it's image slash and then the play button PNG. Now underneath that we want to have a div with the class of content and relax. I don't know if it's relax or relics, but in here we're going to have 2 divs that are going to have an H2. Actually, this H2 we're going to give a class of text, or not text, secondary dash text, because I wanted to have that yellow color, and we'll say stream everything, and then a paragraph. Let's just do lorem 20 to give us 20 words here, Now this div, we're going to have 2 of these, so I'm going to copy that down, and we're just going to change the title here. Let's change this to, what is it? Short is the new long. Okay, so that's the second section. The next one is going to be the 3 cards, and we're going to use the grid to align that. So let's do section, and I'll call this section dash grid. And inside here we're going to have 3 divs with the class of Relax, because they're all going to have that effect, and they're all actually going to have different speeds, and I'll show you how we can change the speeds later on. So we'll have an icon with FAS, and let's do, what else, FA-video for this icon, and FA-3X, which will change the size. And then also I want to use my secondary dash text here because I want the icons to be yellow. And underneath that we'll have an H2 with a watch, and then a span with the class of secondary dash text, and also a class of dot, because we have this period here. So if I show you down here, right here where I want to actually just increase the font size and change it to a yellow color. So underneath the H2 we have a paragraph, let's say lorem 20, and then we need 3 of these. So we'll just copy this down a couple times. The second one is going to have an icon of users, and we're going to change the text from watch to share. Okay, and this one down here will change to learn, and the icon is going to be FA-book. Okay, and then last thing we want is the footer, which is really simple. It's just basically a footer tag with a UL, so I'm just going to paste that in. Okay, so we'll go ahead and save that. Let's open this up with Live Server, and that's what it's going to look like. Okay, now we're going to jump into the CSS, and I am going to paste most of this stuff in. However, I'll paste it in and I'll go over it. So first thing we want to do is import our font. We're using this Montserrat font here. And then we're going to set some variables or some CSS custom properties. So on the root scope, we're setting the primary color, secondary color to yellow, and the text color to this light purple. All right, now as far as, I guess, the base styles go, we're just going to paste in a simple reset, setting the box sizing to border box, resetting the margin and padding, implementing our font in the body. The background color is the primary color, font size 18. We're just adding margin bottom to our headings and paragraph, and then removing the underline from our links and removing any bullet points from ULs. And that's what it's going to look like so far. Okay, so next we're going to do the button. So we have a class of BTN, and we're just displaying inline block. We're setting the secondary color, which is yellow, as the background, rounding the corners, adding the padding, uppercasing everything, font size. On hover, we're just going to scale it down a little bit. So if I save that, you can see our button. We have a little scale effect when we hover over it. So pretty simple. We also have a couple utility classes for text. So primary text, secondary text is just going to set the color, to that color. So we have that implemented here as well as on the icons, this secondary text. Now the sections, remember we have this broken up. We have this section here, section top, section stream, which is this here, and then section grid, which is these 3 elements here. So each section is going to be positioned relative, because the stuff inside, for the most part, is going to be positioned absolute within that section. So we have to make sure we set this to relative, and then we're just adding some padding on the sides. Now we'll start off with section top. So let me just grab this real quick. So section top, I just put a comment here. We have a minimum height of 500 pixels. We're adding BG1 as our background image. The heading, we're making the font size really large. And then the content part is going to be positioned absolute, from 100 from the top, 70 from the right, and we're setting the width to 50%. So if I save that, let's see, why is the image not showing? Oh, I'm sorry, it's IMG. There we go. So we have the background image and we have this. So this heading and the button is the content and it's positioned absolute within the relative section. Okay, so pretty simple. Next thing we're going to do is the section stream. So let me just grab that real quick. All right, so let me just go through this. Section stream, this time we're setting a minimum height of 700 pixels, and we're using BG2 as our background. H2 font size. The play button is going to be positioned absolute on the left, so 80 pixels from the left. Width is 25%. The content, which is the two text areas, are going to be positioned absolute on the right side. And then each div within the content, I'm just setting a light translucent background with padding and border radius. So we'll save that. That's what it's going to look like. So this is positioned absolute over here. This is over here. We have some styling here. All right, now for the grid part of this, let's go ahead and grab the section grid stuff. I don't like copying and pasting, but I didn't want to spend too much time writing out the CSS. So section grid, we're displaying as a grid. So we have 3 items inside, right? So we have, right here, we have these 3 divs, which all have the Relax class. And we're just setting the columns to repeat 3 one fraction, which means it's 3 even columns. Grid gap, section grid icon, we don't actually need that anymore because we use the secondary text class on the icons. The paragraph, I'm using that text color, which is the light purple, and then the dot, I'm just using font size 40 pixels. We don't actually need that. So let's save, and now you can see that these are aligned in the grid. Now I want to give each one of these the same design as this, so this rounded corner background. So what I'll do is go up to right here and just add in what is it, section dash grid, and then the direct divs. I want to give that same style. So now they have that background. All right, now the footer is really simple. So we're just gonna go ahead and paste that in. So the footer, we're just setting a border top, padding margin, and then the UL we're just setting to flex, and we want to justify the remaining space, the content, to space around so that it gets put around each flex item, each link. Okay, and that's pretty much it as far as the desktop version goes. We will be adding some media queries, but we're going to do that after because we're actually going to set different speeds based on the width of the website as well. So now let's go ahead and implement Relax, or Parallax. So down here, we want to initialize the library by setting a variable of Relax equal to a new Relax object. And this is going to take in the class that we want to use, which is going to be our Relax class. Now, once I save this, we should get the effect. So you can see that the background is moving at a different pace for all the elements. Don't worry about this. This actually runs into the footer, but when we change the speeds, it actually positions them and it puts them in different positions and they move at different paces. So that's what we want to do now, is kind of change that stuff up. I mean, this isn't too bad, obviously, except for this part here. But to change the speed, let's go up to the first element, which is the content inside section top, which is this right here. And we want to set on this an attribute. Okay, so in addition to the class, we want to set data dash relax dash speed. And if I set this to, let's say 10, which is the max, and we scroll down, you see how fast it goes up? Now if I set it to -10, which is the lowest on the other side, and I scroll, it just kind of stays there. It's very, very slow to go up, and it just stays on the screen basically. So you can go from -10 to +10. I want this set to 5. So what that's going to do is make it go up pretty quickly, but that's what I want. And then I want this to go up quickly as well. In fact, I want it to go even faster. So I'm going to take, let's just copy this, and go to my content that's in section stream, and I want to make that faster. I'm going to make it 10. Okay, so now when I scroll, notice that this is starting to catch up with this because it's moving faster. Okay, so it kind of it narrows that gap in between, and you can obviously experiment with it and change things around. This button over here, I want to go very slow. In fact, I mean, we could probably leave it where it is, but I'm going to make it -1. So for the play, so we already have the class relax, which adds the effect, but I'm going to make this -1. Okay, so that moves, you know, very slow. Basically just stays on the screen the whole time. Now these down here, I want to set all to different speeds because I want them to have that staircase effect. So let's go to the grid, section grid, and each of these divs here, we need to add the speed attribute. Okay, so we got that one, and that one. And I mean, if we kept them all the same, so it's at 10 right now, so it's going to come up really fast. We don't want 10. We want them all to be different. So the first one I'm going to set to 1. And then the next one will be a little faster. So the next one here, let's do 4. And then the third one, I'm going to do 7. So that way you can see that they move at different paces and they end up in different places. Okay. So I mean, that's pretty much how this works, and of course you could come up with your own design and do some stuff that's even cooler, but I mean, that's how it works. We add the speed. Now we can also add certain speeds for certain widths. So if we go to, let's go back to the website here. Actually, I don't know if it shows it in the website. I think we have to go to the GitHub. And there's all types of options you can add as well. So right here, so this is what we're going to end up using is the XS, extra small, because we only want this for like really small mobile screens. There is a mobile, but that's for tablets too. That's like, I don't know, 700 pixels or something, or maybe even higher. But there's a tablet for just tablets. There's a desktop. So there's different responsive speeds here that we can use. Now, before we even get into that, I want to make this, change some of the CSS in the media query. I mean, this looks pretty good, but once we get to, you know, once we get really small, like a phone, things start running into each other because everything is positioned absolute. So we're going to add some media queries. So let's go back to our CSS. And down at the bottom here, let's say mobile, we'll say media. And we want to do a max width of 700 pixels. So anything under 700 pixels, this will take effect. Now the stuff that's positioned absolute, I'm going to set to static, which is just the default. So it's not going to be absolute anymore, and it's going to reach 100% width. So if I save that, now this stuff is just static, which is, you know, the default position. Now the static top, I'm sorry, the section top, the minimum height is 500 pixels by default. So if we look up here, section top, we have a minimum height of 500. I'm going to shorten that to 200 and also just add some padding on the top. Now the content I want to align to the center, and I also want to make the H1 smaller. So let me just paste that in. Okay, so now it's aligned center, and the H1 is now 45 instead of 70. For the stream part, section stream, which is this image and then this text here, I'm going to set the minimum height from 700 to 400, and the play button, I'm going to set the width to 50, display it as a block so I can use margin and center it, and just add 30 pixels on the top and bottom. So right now, even with the speeds that we have set, I think it looks pretty good. I actually like how it goes over the image, even though it's a little unreadable if it's like right over it, but I kind of like that effect, so I'm going to leave it. Now the grid, if we go down here, we don't want 3 columns on this screen size. So what we'll do is we'll just set it to display block and take away any margin. So, whoops, if I save that, now they're stacked, but they're running into each other because of the speed that we set. So we're going to have to change that. But the last thing I want to do here is just the footer. Instead of having it displayed as flex, we'll display it as block so that it's on top of each other. Now that's it for the CSS. So let's go ahead and implement the certain speeds for certain sizes. Now the first one we have is this content here, which is speed 5. I actually want to keep that, so I'm not going to need to change this or add another attribute. Let's see what else. The play button. The play button is going to be, let's see, it's -1. I'm actually going to set it to -5 for smaller screens. So what I'll do, is copy this and paste that in and just add in right here XS dash, and that's going to pertain to only very small screens. So I'll set that to -5, which will change it a little bit and keep it on the screen longer so it goes behind those two. Okay, now let's see, right here we have 10 for the, what is this? This is this right here, and I'm going to keep that at 10, so that's fine. We definitely need to take care of this grid because, as you can see, they're just running into each other. So we want to set them all to the same speed. So let's add in here and say dash XS, and I'm going to set them all to 3. So let's, that should be 1 dash. Let's grab this here and add it to the rest of these like that, and this one here. So save, and now they're not running into each other anymore because the speed is the same for all 3 of them. All right, so I think that's pretty good. I mean, if you want to change it up a little bit and experiment with the speeds and stuff, you can, but I think it looks pretty good. So I will have a link in the description to the code pen, and just check it out, use it in different projects and see what you can come up with. But that's it for this video, and I will see you in the next one. Thanks, guys.